Good morning, everyone. I'm on the way to Israel to join Dini, about to get onto the El Al flight. And this week's Torah portion has the famous words of Billam, Ma tovu alecha Yaakov, how goodly are your tents, O Jacob, Mishkanotecha Yisrael, your dwelling places, O Israel. And the question is, what are the two categories? How goodly are your tents, Jacob, and your dwelling places, Israel? What's the difference between your tents and your dwelling places? And what is the difference between Jacob and Israel, which are two different names for the Jewish people? And one beautiful answer is that there's the Jewish home and then there's the synagogue. Matova alecha Yaakov, your tents, your dwelling places, your Jewish homes, how beautiful are they? How good are they? And your dwelling places, Israel, that's the sanctuary, the synagogue where we come to pray and study. And amazingly, when we enter the synagogue, we first talk about how goodly are the tents of Jacob, because the first place that a child receives their Jewish upbringing and education is the home. The home is the backbone. The Jewish family and the Jewish homes is the backbone for the community and for the synagogue. So first we have to talk about the goodness of the house, meaning the tent of Jacob, and then the dwelling places of Israel. But as I'm about to go to Israel, I'm thinking of another interpretation to this verse, and that is, how goodly are your dwelling places, how goodly are your tents, Jacob. A tent is something that's temporary. And therefore, when we talk about the tents of Jacob, we're talking about the Jews in the diaspora, in exile. Wherever we are, whichever country we are, it's temporary. Jews have lived in many lands, and unfortunately they were expelled or exiled from one land to the other, and therefore it was all like a tent of Jacob. But your dwelling places, O Israel, is talking about the land of Israel. That's the permanent, everlasting dwelling place of the Jewish people. As we go to Israel, like Billam, we see the beauty and the goodness of the Jewish people in the land of Israel. And I want to show you something, that when I'm going into this El Al terminal to get ready to go to Israel, you already get a taste of Israel in the terminal. Because right here in the terminal, as you enter in, and you see everybody here, there's already a tefillin stand where people come to put on tefillin before they get on their flight. And this is the way they prepare to go to Israel. You know, when you go to Israel, you have the tefillin stands at the kotel, and people come to the kotel and they put on their tefillin. And there's a story told about a Chabad rabbi standing at the kotel asking people to put on tefillin, and he sees the commander of his unit from when he was in the army, in the IDF, coming to the kotel. So he stops his commander, he's happy to see him, he welcomes him, they embrace, and then he says, "Tell me, did you put on tefillin yet?" And he says, "I'm not religious, I don't put on tefillin." And the IDF soldier, the Chabad rabbi, says to him, "You know, when I was in the army, you taught me that when your commander gives you a command, you don't ask questions. You obey the command." He said, "The commander-in-chief, Almighty God, commanded us to put on tefillin. And when you're commanded by the commander-in-chief, you don't ask questions. You do as you're commanded." And the officer, the commander of his unit, rolled up his sleeve, put on a kippah, and put on tefillin. And so, from El Al Terminal in Miami Beach, to everyone, wishing you a wonderful day, and I'll have you all in mind at the Kotel and all the holy places in the land of Israel. Have a wonderful day.
60 seconds.